Hello my viewers, why don't you take a look at these move animations? Pretty much all of these were made based on existing models and existing move animations with a couple of minor tweaks. Like here, these hearts are light blue instead of pink. And the move animations you do see kind of look like existing move animations, but pretty much just different colors. Do you see where this is going? Yep, this is an animation script tutorial all about recoloring move particles. So the things we'll be covering in this video are configuring the new particles, introducing you all to the concept of sprite templates, editing the move animation code, testing the new move animations in game, and a couple of limitations with this way of editing move particles. Before proceeding, make sure to make a backup of your ROM so that you are not punished for making mistakes. What you can do is select File and then click Export Backup. You will then be prompted about your most recent change that you have made to this ROM hack. Once you enter that, Hex Maniac Advance will automatically create a backup of your ROM and its toml file, so that it will be there if you need it. Let's start the tutorial by creating the recolored particles. So I'm gonna start by going to the Move Particles table, by typing particle and then clicking graphics, moves, particles, and then sprites. I'm going to scroll down all the way until I see some unused sprites, in which I expanded the table in the previous video. So like the first custom sprite is the Brave Bird Sky Attack one, which still looks like a white ring. Well, sort of. But we can change that. So I want to make a blue Sky Attack bird particle. And I'll use an existing particle as a reference. So in the search bar over here, I'm going to type bird, and I'll be able to click on the ID that says Sky Attack bird. So on the left of the Sky Attack bird, where my cursor is, you'll see a pointer and then a number for the size. You want to copy both of those values. And if you hover over the pointer and it shows the right reference sprite, then you're good to go. Now on the sprites table, find the ID that says Brave Bird Sky Attack in my case, or whichever ID you want to assign a new sprite to. Now do what we did earlier by selecting the pointer and the size value to its left and pasting what we just copied. Now you see a black and white version of the Sky Attack bird. To recolor this sprite, you can use an existing palette in the game or you can make your own. I'm going to choose to make my own. On top of the square of colors, click repoint and then this one, so that this move particle has its own unique color scheme. And to be even more safe, you can click repoint this one on top of the sprite, so that if you do make changes to the sprite, it won't affect the vanilla Sky Attack bird. And now you just press edit and it's time to edit the colors. So instead of using the paint bucket tool, which you definitely could use, I'm going to click different colors of the palette and changing the colors and the gradient tool, and the image will update in real time. Similarly, for the colors that are currently white, I can also change them to different shades of blue to make more blue accents. And over time, hopefully, the image will look closer and closer to what you envisioned. There are many other slots in the palette that are colored black normally, and they may appear to be unused. But if I change this slot to orange, you'll notice some orange pixels show up. But since I'm already content with how the sprite looks, I'll change that color black to black. I'll stop here for now, but I can go back later and make further edits. So I'll click the save icon and exit the image editor. And you can also see the sprite right here in the table. So the next particle I want to make is a lightning particle that's colored blue for the fusion bolt animation. So what I'll do next is click this bar over here and type thunder. And from process of elimination, I'll click lightning thunder, which is what's used in Thunder's move animation. So I'll do the same thing as before. To return to the sprites table, I'm going to click this pointer field underneath graphics moves particles sprites. I copy the corresponding image pointer and size, go to the slot that says Fusion Bolt Thunderbolt, and then paste to override the data that we need to override. And for good measure, I will repoint the sprite. Now we have to ask ourselves, which palette are we going to use? How about we use the blue palette that we used earlier for the Brave Bird particle? After all, I also wanted a blue Thunderbolt. So I'm going to go to this pointer field, which is underneath Graphics Moves Particles Palettes over here, and I will copy this pointer, then return to the Fusion Bolt Thunderbolt slot, and then paste it over the existing palette field. Make sure to repoint this existing palette, in case I want to make any further edits. Now we can edit the image, but for certain particles like these, You will have to drag this slider over here by the top left so that the image actually looks like a real particle instead of a garbled mess. And now you can edit the existing colors to pretty much anything you want. I made some of the colors darker and more purple, and I put a yellow outline to make it look more like a thunderbolt. So notice that a good chunk of the particle is still colored black. I noticed there was a black color slot in between the yellow and the blue over here, so I chose to make it light yellow. Afterwards, I hovered over the other black color slots in the palette to see which black pixels in the image actually use those colors, and I found another one. And here I chose to make that black color a deep blue color instead, and I pretty much did the same thing for the adjacent color slots that were also originally black but still used. I was also freehanding the colors and not putting too much of a thought into them, and I can always adjust the color scheme if I don't end up liking it. So for now, I'm pretty much done with my work, so I'm going to save my changes and move forward. For the sake of time, there are other examples I want to try out, but I might just not get to it. So instead, I will close the ROM in HMA and open the ROM's toml file. So in here, I'm going to open the Find menu and then type in move_particle, and then I press enter a couple of times until I get to the list that says move particles. Afterwards, I scroll all the way down until I see a couple of entries that say unnamed and then a number. And I can change their names, like say Blue Heart for the Captivate animation. And I can do the same thing if I want a move particle named, say, Red Coil. Now after I save my changes in Notepad, I go back to Hex Maniac Advance, and then I go back to the move particle sprites table with pretty much the same process as laid out before. And if I click the text box that says Bone, I can scroll down and you can see some of the unnamed move entries getting renamed to Blue Heart and Red Coil, like what we did in Notepad just now. I will most likely implement these sprites off screen, but the process will still be the same as what you've seen already. Some sprites, like the small fire sprite I'm going to now, have multiple pictures on top of one another. Some move animations require something like this. If you just want to recolor them, then you can do so as if it was a single image. However, if you want to swap out sprites in addition to colors to get your envisioned particle to move in a particular way, that'll have to be its own tutorial. In such a video, I could go into a lot more depth. However, as I've hinted to before, you can make many new move animations with simple texture recolors or spruce up existing moves. So the ceiling is still pretty high. With that said, I'll move forward to the next objective. I will now introduce you to Sprite Templates, building blocks for most move animations. So this is the point where we want to start making moves with custom move animations. So I'll lay down a little bit of groundwork here. So I'm going to type Captivate, the move we're going to implement, and hit enter. I can do this for other moves like Brave Bird too. Now we can see Captivate's move data. I pretty much filled out all of it off screen, and if you want to know how to do that, there's a tutorial that you will see in the card above. The one thing I haven't done was given Captivate its own unique animation, and for this tutorial I will use Charm's animation but recoloring the heart's particles. So I'll click this bar that currently says Captivate and I will type in Charm instead and go to its move data. Next I'm going to go to the move animation pointer, which you can see right here. You can click the arrowhead or just click on the text and then double click or control click on the blue pointer right over here in the Hex content viewer. In the code tool, I'm going to select all of this code and right click and click copy. You might see some more code in text boxes below, but do not copy those. There is no need to. Then click the house icon to open the go-to menu and type in an address in free space. I kind of freehanded this one, no pun intended. Then paste the code. To set up the new moves animation, I'm going to go to the first byte of the code, which is 00 in this case, and right-click, click copy address. Afterwards, I'm going to click the house icon again, then type the / followed by the move name that I want, such as Captivate. Then I click Graphics, Pokemon.moves, and Animations, and you'll see the move Captivate there. And right on the bytes that Hex Maniac Advance takes you to, just right-click and hit paste, and then type a greater than sign to complete the pointer. Now you have updated the location of Captivate's move animation code. Admittedly, it did take 2 minutes to get to this point, but now we can start talking about the sprite templates. We just had to get a bunch of prep work out of the way first. In the code, look at these create sprite commands. Each of them has one pointer to an address containing certain sprite data that the game needs to use when playing this move animation. You can see all of the data in the brackets here and in the orange text. Although there are a lot of details to digest, for this tutorial the only ones we'll focus on are the tile tag and the palette tag. To see where the Sprite Templates data is stored in memory, I will double click this pointer over here and you can see in the Hex Content Viewer all of the data. You can pretty much see that it's in sequential contiguous order. The data is right here and it looks really colorful. You can also see all of the data in the table panel, which is on the left. The important fields right now are the tile tag and the palette tag, which are important for retrieving the data every time you need to load this particle in a move animation. The other 5 pointers are unimportant for this tutorial. When making move animations, sometimes you might see the necessary sprite template data, but it's not formatted with all of the pretty colors, and instead you'll see raw hex bytes. Here are a couple of examples. So while these 2 rows of data may not make it obvious, both of them are actually sprite templates. One way you can tell is if you see 400 bytes in between 2 pointers. For most of these data structures, they represent a null images pointer. And the other way is if you see 2 repeating numbers at the front, and you see a pair of 27 or 28 bytes over here. To restore the format so that Hex Maniac Advance recognizes it correctly, go to a sprite template that is formatted correctly and copy its format, everything in the brackets including the brackets themselves. At the area where you want to restore the formatting, hold Shift and press 6 for a circumflex. Give a name to the anchor, I'll just do misc dot and then the address, and then I paste the contents that I copied earlier. It turned out that, to my surprise, that sprite template was actually unused. So in a vast majority of cases, you can leave them alone and not really worry about them. But from my experience, you will encounter this issue on sprite templates that are used in the game. We can now give our custom moves our custom move animations so that they stand out from the existing moves in the game. So for time's sake, I'll only cover 2 move animations, those being Captivate and Brave Bird. But with this information, you can extrapolate the process and be able to edit other moves as well. I'll start by going to Captivate's move animation code, and you can see all of the commands and all of the arguments passed in. To save my spot, I will duplicate this tab by right-clicking the Emerald Demo tab and clicking the necessary option. In this new tab, I will go to the Go-To menu once again, type Blue Heart this time for the Blue Heart particle, and I can click these buttons on screen to go directly to Blue Heart's entry in the Move Particles table. So pay attention to where my mouse cursor is going. Notice this number right here, the number 290. You're going to need to know this number when editing this code so that you can use this particle in battle. So back at Captivate's animation script, you'll want to add this following line of code. Loadspritegfx, no spaces, followed by 10,000 and then the number that you memorized. So in my case, 10,290. In some cases, you can get rid of the existing loadspritegfx commands if you're certain that you don't need them. If not, it's fine to leave them there. When you edit sprite templates, you'll need to take note of what address the sprite template is in. You can see it right here after the create sprite command. You can double click the corresponding blue pointer in the Hex Content Viewer, and you'll be taken to a place where you can edit the data. Not edit, sorry, I meant copy and paste to another address in free space, so that you don't interfere with the existing move animation that you're basing this move animation off of. For this tutorial, the only things you really need to edit are the tile tag and the palette tag, which are these 2 green numbers here. So that Captivate uses blue hearts instead of pink hearts, I will change both the tile tag and the palette tag to 10,290, which lines up with the loadspritegfx command that we added earlier. Technically, nothing's stopping you from using different numbers for the tile tag and the palette tag, but it is not good practice to do that. If you're really on top of things and you have memorized which move particles use which ID and which move particle palettes use which ID, then you can be clever with using different numbers. But if you're still getting the hang of things, I recommend using a move particle with the same sprite number and the same palette number, like what we have here. Anyways, the next thing you need to do is go to the tile tag that you just edited of this duplicate sprite template, and right-click and click Copy Address. You can then paste this address into the Create Sprite command and others that do the same job, overwriting the existing address that was there for the original move animation. If I click back off and click back onto the bytes of the script to refresh the script, you'll see that all of the metadata in orange is gone. But don't worry, everything will work as you would expect in-game. Now I will save changes and switch gears to the Brave Bird animation. So we will return to the Go To menu and go to Bravebird's move animation. Once again, I configured all of the move data off camera, but I did not provide a unique animation for it yet. So what I will do is actually go to Sky Attack's move animation and copy its code, because Sky Attack's attacking turn has a good animation that can also be repurposed for Bravebird. So here's a detail that makes things more complicated. Because Sky Attack is a 2-turn move and there are 2 separate move animations for each turn, in this case you will only have to copy 1 block of code, so to speak. So we can reasonably infer from this choose 2-turn anim command that the first pointer points to the charging turn move animation, and the second pointer points to the attacking animation. Since we want the attack animation, we'll need to scroll down to the block of code that corresponds to this address right here, 2CD2AE, and other games will have a different address number. Once you located that block of code, select all of the lines of code and copy them. You can click the back arrow a couple of times or use the Go To menu to find another address in free space, and paste the move animation code. You might see a couple of text boxes show up underneath. You can safely ignore them for the most part. Now on the first byte of code that corresponds to the move animation script, right click it and click copy address. You will need this in a few moments. Return to where we were earlier in the table of move animation pointers, but specifically Bravebird's entry, and then paste the address like we did before. If you recall earlier, we did make a blue particle for the Sky Attack bird, so we will go to that part of data in the move particles table, so that we can get the numerical ID of this particle. As you can see over here, it's 289, so for our move animation code, we will refer to this with an ID of 10,289. So back at Bravebird's move animation code, there's another way you can actually edit the necessary sprite templates. So in the onCreateSprite command that involves the bird particle, I will change the address that's in the pointer over here to another one in free space. Now you might freak out if you look to the right that some of the data looks weird, but trust me, it will get updated once you do a couple of things. This time I'm changing the tile tag and the palette tag within the code itself by editing the fields that are in orange. And the actual game data is being updated in real time. So there are 2 more things I want to mention. The first of which is that you can only have 5 particle IDs loaded with this command at once. Like if you started the animation script with 6 loadspritegfx commands instead of 5 or fewer, then some of the move particles that would be loaded in this move animation will have graphical glitches. One way you can remedy this is by using the unloadspritegfx command after you're done using a move particle and a createSprite or a createVisualTask command. The other thing I want to mention is that there are other things you can actually change the color of, not just actual move particles. I'll show you this by going to Gigadrain's move animation code. So you can see some of these createSprite commands that have data underneath that say tile tag 0 and palette tag 0. These deal with backgrounds or other types of visual effects. And for this one in particular, if you look at the final argument that's passed in, you'll see a hex number that's really large and seemingly out of place. If the first digit isn't an F, you can infer that this is actually a color code. In this case right now, 33ED is like a light green color, as you can see over here. If I really wanted to, I can change this color to like a light blue, so I can use 7FA0. To figure out which 4-digit color code corresponds to the color you want, you'll have to play around in the image editor. The color gradient that pops up will show you the 4-digit hex code. So for demonstration purposes, we're pretty much done. All we have to do is now test the things in game. Now that we have finished making our move animation scripts, it's time to see what they look like in the actual games. What I'm going to do here is play each move's move animation while I have the move animation code in the background. What I'm going to start with is Captivate, and I'm going to press the buttons that we've pressed before to get to Captivate's move animation script. Not all of this code is going to show up at once, so I'll probably have to scroll down after playing the move animation. You can press this green play button or your F5 key to load an emulator, but in my case I already have it loaded up. This is what our Captivate animation looks like. Just like what we have intended, it looks just like Charm's move animation and the hearts look light blue, with no oddities whatsoever. Also, here are the last few lines of this code. Now it's time to see the results of the Bravebird animation. Yeah, that's looking pretty sick. I personally find the accents to be a little bit too dark, and I can fix them if I really wanted to, by making them more blue like the body of the particle. And here's the rest of the code. Note that many of the branches of code are the exact same as in Sky Attack. I did Fusion Bolt's move animation off camera because I wanted to save time, and I went a little bit above and beyond here. Basically, I used Thunder's move animation, but I took out a couple of commands. And I did the same thing we did earlier by using the recolored blue Thunderbolts. This is what the blue Thunderbolts look like in the game. Honestly, they look kind of strange. The yellow outlines were kind of questionable in retrospect, and I was thinking the overall body was going to be a lighter blue, so I think I will go back and revise this one. Now the last one on the list is Gigadrain's background. And you can see on the emulator that the background is now light blue. You can play around with this number over here and witness a variety of different colors. So I'll have to make some changes to the blue Thunderbolt particle. Now we're back in the image editor. You can hold the Control key and select multiple colors in the palette to select multiple colors at once. This makes editing similar existing colors a lot more convenient. I want to try to make the blue a little less royal / a little less deep. So I'm going to drag around these two circles over here to mess around with the hues, saturations, and brightnesses until the blue colors become satisfactory. I don't have exact shades / tints in mind, so I'm pretty much just freehanding this, which is okay. I ended up changing the darker blues on their own because they ended up sticking out too much and they needed more changes to be more in line with the rest of the blue colors. I ended up not liking the yellow and white outlines, so I decided to make those a darker, more distinct type of blue. The rest of the changes I made were very negligible, and admittedly I could have made it a montage, but I didn't think it would look that interesting. Anyways, after saving my changes and opening the emulator, I am ready to show the animation. I don't like how that turned out. The lightning bolts in the emulator looked way too thick, so I probably did need a distinct outline, but white and yellow were just not the right colors. Time to montage. Let's save changes and try out this new particle. Alright, that looks so much better. I think I'll be content with this for now. And if you're still not satisfied with the results of your move particles, keep trying, you'll get there. The best forms of art are seldom rushed. Alright, we're almost done. I just have a couple of final notes to mention. Oh yeah, Hex Maniac Advance got a new update recently. I can illustrate the main limitation by going to Thunderbolt's move animation. So I type Thunderbolt and then click Graphics, Pokemon Moves, and then you'll see it there. Double click the pointer that's currently highlighted, and we're here. I will zero in on these commands. The relevant ones start with Create Visual Task. They are also used to show move particles, and the Thunderbolt particles in this move animation require this command. And the arguments passed in are pretty much the same as Create Sprite. But the problem is, although you need the loadspritegfx commands to load these particles properly, you can't actually recolor move particles that are used in these commands, unlike what we did before. So for example, this address in this create visual task command, if I go to it by right-clicking and clicking go to address, you won't actually see any sprite template data. Instead, if I highlight these 88 bytes and go to the code tool, you will see thumb code. And while you technically can edit the thumb code to recolor these particles, you have to really know what you're doing and it's out of the scope of this tutorial. So if you wanted to make a particular move animation, you'll have to improvise, adapt, and overcome by sticking to the move animations that are predominantly run by create sprite commands. To illustrate the difficulties, I actually made Sludge Wave in one of my ROM hacks. I tried to repurpose Surf's move animation by using a purple color, but I had to edit a lot of thumb code. I had to move around so much data in order to make room for the new palette that Sludge Wave can use to distinguish it from Surf and Muddy Water, but, well, take a look here. So yeah, I failed to recover Surf's wave particle due to these limitations. Or did I? So even though I did manage to get Sludge Wave's move animation to work without crashing, it really wasn't all that easy, especially considering that the way I did it was very inefficient and was more error prone. So if you were to try to do something like this with limited thumb code experience, it would be a lot harder, but still doable. Thank you for sticking to the end of the video. I really underestimated how long this tutorial was going to take. I thought it was going to be like less than 20 minutes. I'm so sorry about that. But hopefully you were able to absorb as many of the details as possible, as making move animation scripts is a whole other beast compared to other things you could do while ROM hacking. But you don't have to tackle this alone. You can always ask for help in the Discord server or ask questions in the comments section. Hopefully you all will make good use out of this tutorial as a stepping stone for making custom, awesome looking move animations for custom moves. It will definitely make your Pokemon battles more memorable. If you ever encounter a bug with the software, or if it crashes or gives you a debug alert, please report it in our Discord server. That's all I've got. I won't keep you here for much longer.